So what we're looking at is sit and get, which is the traditional lecture, versus active learning. And MIT has actually done away with all lecture in their first year classes. And you're probably aware of that. That was about a year ago that they did that. And I think they've expanded that a bit. But they've done away with all of it. They put it all up as podcasts. Students have to listen to it before they come to the class. And then there's active learning that takes place in the classes. And they've actually reduced their class sizes so that they can engage in this sort of active learning. And the professor walks around and he does just-in-time teaching. So whatever the concepts are that the students are working with, they're actually working with those in groups, taking advantage of each other's expertise. And the professor does mini lectures here and there just in time concerning what the students are doing. And that's really a very different paradigm than what we're used to.
And this happened about a year ago, you're saying?
It did. And you've got the resource, the article in the Chronicle that's at the end of the presentation.
And Lee, since this is more of a hybrid or a blended, then when I went to a facet, they were recommending then that you give time out of the traditional classroom. So if it's a 3 credit hour and you meet 3 times a week, then you maybe only meet 2 hours a week instead of 3 hours a week.
I think.
Is that true? Is that what MIT people are transitioning to?
No. I mean, I think that's controversial because I understand where people are coming from with that. And I don't mean to say anything's wrong because I think all of this is in transition, and so we're adapting and we're creating our knowledge as it goes along. But the way people have started looking at lecture is this is just another resource. So if you ask students to read an article, how long does it take them to read that article? Or if you ask them to read a chapter in a book, how long does it take them to read that chapter? And would you let them take that time out of class? And the answer is no. And so, I mean, I understand where where they're coming from, but I think that as we begin to look at what we're doing as providing the information to the students that they need to do the discipline, then, and you do have some of these resources. I recommend you check these out because they address that. The idea that the role of the teacher has changed. And so we're not the person who has to deliver the content anymore. As we just saw, there are lots of places where students can get the content. But we are the people who have to help students connect with that content and put it into context and help them filter good content from bad. And so that puts us in a really different position for the 21st century. I want to share this with you. And this is, I think, a nice example of a video that's done really well. And this is from TED. And I don't know if you're familiar with TED, but it is a wonderful conference that happens once a year that all of the most innovative people in the country and the world go to. And they try to find one big idea that everyone can rally around. And then once they decide on that big idea, then the whole community spends the year trying to forward that idea. And so I don't know if you're familiar with one, which is an effort to feed children, I believe, in Africa. And that was Bono's big idea. And that's one of the ones that they funded and that really has taken off. But they get the most out-of-the-box thinking people to speak at TED. And so this is Ken Robinson, and it's interesting the way this transcript works. You can actually click on the words where you'd like to watch the video. You don't have to watch the whole thing. So, and this I think is key with our students this right now, because they don't necessarily want to watch a 20-minute video from start to finish. They want the information they need to do that thing they need to do. And that's more and more the way we're working, too. We don't have time to read everything about everything. Did you read the book Blink?
Oh, yeah, thanks.
Yeah, so it's not about reading all the information, it's getting the right information for what we need to do. So I'm going to play just a little part of this just because it's a little out-of-the-box way of thinking about things.
I have a big interest in education, and I think we all do. We have a huge vested interest in it, partly because it's education that's meant to take us into this future that we can't grasp. If you think of it, children starting school this year will be retiring in 2065. Nobody has a clue, despite all the expertise that's been on parade for the past 4 days, what the world will look like in 5 years' time. And yet we're meant to be educating them for it. So the unpredictability, I think, is extraordinary. And the third part of this is that we've all agreed, nonetheless, on the really extraordinary capacities that children have, their capacities for innovation. I mean, Serena last night was a marvel, wasn't she? Just seeing what she could do. And she's exceptional, but I think she's not, so to speak, exceptional in the whole of childhood. What you have there is a person of extraordinary dedication who found a talent. And my contention is all kids have tremendous talents, and we squander them pretty ruthlessly. So I want to talk about education, and I want to talk about creativity. My contention is that creativity now is as important in education as literacy.
I'm going to jump ahead.
I had a great story recently, I love telling it, of a little girl who was in a drawing lesson. She was 6 and she was at the back drawing, and the teacher said this little girl hardly ever paid attention, and in this drawing lesson she did. And the teacher was fascinated. She went over to her and she said, "What are you drawing?" And the girl said, "I'm drawing a picture of God." And the teacher said, "But nobody knows what God looks like." And the girl said, "They will in a minute."
In that process. And his whole point is that, you know, what we do a lot of times is we educate creativity out of people. We reduce them to mimicking what we've said rather than putting their own thoughts together in their own way, which could make complete sense in some context. And he also talks about how we've made being wrong being that it's now such a folly to be wrong. I think it was Edison who said, you know, I haven't failed 100 times, I've tried 100 things that just didn't work. And so it's not about failure, it's about that willingness to risk. And that's one of the things we have to open up our students to, particularly if we are going to get into active learning and we're going to reduce the lecture to a resource, then we begin to involve our students in the class, and it's got to be safe, a safe place for them. So here's some forms of interactive lecture, and I actually there was a video that was about Think, Pair, Share. Now, instead of actually lecturing on Think, Pair, Share, here is what they did. So you're going to see a professor who is actually
50 by 50. And as I said,
trying out this
mild
model.
steel. Looking at these, looking around the room, thinking about what you've done, I'm going to give you 10 seconds to think about what mild steel is used for. We have discussed this before. The 10 seconds starts now. Just thinking to yourself.
So 10 seconds is what he's giving
Look
them,
around the room,
just to
look
think
in the
about
woodwork
this.
room, look in the metalwork room, that sort of thing. Okay, stop. That's your 10. We're not going to answer just yet, no, thanks. What we're going to do now is you are going to discuss with your partner when I ask you to what is made out of mild steel. And then I'm going to pick 3 people in the room, any 3 people, to tell us what they know mild steel is made out of. The thing is, if your answer has already been said, you're allowed to tell us the answer's already been said, we'll pick somebody else. Okay? You've got 10 seconds to talk to your neighbour about what mild steel is used for. Go.
10 seconds. He's holding the keys here.
3 of you can talk together. Stop! What's mild steel used for? That cabinet is made from mild steel. Very good. Yes.
And so just that doesn't take but a minute in the classroom to do, to just say, okay, 10 seconds, think about it. 10 seconds, talk about it. I'm going to call on 3 of you. You don't know which 3, so everybody better be ready to talk about it. And I thought that that was nice. And also what's nice there is he actually shows us, rather than telling us, about think, pair, share.